Lindsay here. I'm going to lead you through a standing practice for happy, healthy hips. It's prop free, so you don't need anything except for maybe a yoga mat or a space that you can move comfortably in. So let's begin by coming to standing, perhaps with the legs hip distance apart. Let your arms hang by your side. And take a deep breath in through your nose, and then let it go out the mouth. Settling from the hips, down the legs into the feet. Feel your feet against the ground, sensing into the center of the heels, the base of the big toes, and the base of the baby toes. Notice where the pressure is in your feet. It might be on the inside edges of the feet, the outside edges. Maybe you have a tendency to be more in your heels or weight towards your toes. And just notice. And then start to notice your breathing. Aware of the inhale, air coming in through the nostrils, and the breath going out. Where are you experiencing your breath? Are you aware of it at the nostrils? Perhaps in the chest or the lungs? Maybe you feel some movement through the ribs or the belly or somewhere else. There's no right or wrong, we're just simply noticing. And as you continue to observe your breath, feel your feet, the 3 points of your feet, against the ground. Begin to sense your ankles, your lower legs, your knees, your thighs, and your hips. Notice how your feet and legs support the weight of the upper body. Aware of your breath. Bringing attention to the soles of the feet. Again, noticing where the pressure is in your feet. And then let the palms come to rest on the outside of your thighs. And gently press your legs out into your hands. As you do this, notice what shifts or changes for you. So if you're not sure, let it go and try it again. If you're like me and you have a tendency to roll in and have more pressure on the inside of the feet, this changes how our leg bone articulates in the hip socket, and so now I feel more weight on the outside of my feet, and that feels more balanced. If you don't notice anything at all, that's fine too. We'll hold this for a couple breaths. Notice if tension has built up anywhere else in your body. And then let's come into a little bit of movement. We'll be really gentle at first. We're going to try some heel lifts, and we'll do about 10 of these. So we're coming up onto the balls of the feet, keeping the base of the big toe and base of the baby toe grounded, and then coming back down. So I'm just going to turn sideways so you can see this movement. Coming up and down. And you might like to explore coming up before the heels touch all the way down, or you can come all the way down. Let's try a few more. This is a nice way to release through the back of the legs, the back of the hips. Especially great if you're a runner or you walk long distances. You can do this before or after you go out, or even if you've just been sitting for a long time. Good. And then just notice what you feel. Your legs might feel more alive with sensation. I certainly feel kind of a tingling through my calves and the back of my thighs. So just notice what you notice for yourself. And notice your breathing. Has your experience of breath changed or shifted since we first started? Now let's move on to a little bit of leg rotation. So we're going to start with the right leg. You can start with the left, it doesn't matter. I'm just coming up onto my heel, so I'm lifting the ball of my foot, and then I'm rotating. Let's rotate the leg bone and the hip socket. So as you explore this, notice if you have a tendency to, over initiate the movement through your foot, and let it come up a little bit higher, more through the thigh. And if you dig your fingers kind of right into the side of your bum, you might feel the muscles engage. And so our hip flexors are in here. And this is what's creating the outward rotation of the thigh. And so if you notice that as you rotate the leg, if your hips kind of go with, now we've lost the rotation, you're not actually rotating your leg anymore. So come back and see if you can explore a range, find a range of movement where the hips stay neutral. So the hips don't move, the pelvis is quiet. And if you're really kind of tight, if there's some limitation going on up here, your movement's going to be really small. And just see if you can be okay with that for today. And after you've done a few on the first side, just come back, feeling the 3 points of each foot, shoulders relaxed. And then we can try the other side. And you might notice a difference. It might feel like there's a greater range, more mobility, maybe there's less. So if you're feeling something, like if you feel something happening in your knee, in your ankle, or your low back, explore a smaller movement. Don't go quite as far, and see if that quiets down any pain or discomfort you might be experiencing somewhere else. So oftentimes if we're forcing movement, or even just as out of our awareness and we go too far, our body can speak to us through pain. So it's a little warning signal. We've just gone too far, and we can go smaller so that we establish a healthy movement pattern in a smaller range before we go bigger. Yeah. And then if you want, you can go back to the first side and explore, maybe comparing. I'm just doing a couple on each side again. Keeping the pelvis quiet. Good. And then let's come back to balanced. Noticing your breath. And we'll take the feet a little bit wider than shoulder distance. And then we're going to come back to the first leg, and we're going to rotate the leg out only as far as the pelvis doesn't move, right? That appropriate range, and then let the foot come down. And then we're going to go to the other side and do the same thing, rotating the thigh out and letting the foot come down. Now from here, a little bend in the knees, so I'm not coming way down, just a little bend, and then I'm letting my hands come to the back of my thighs, and I'm pressing the thighs back into my hands. So just a little bit of resistance between the hands and the legs. And notice what you feel. There might be some more engagement somewhere in your thighs. The feet might feel more connected to the ground. Maybe there's an awareness through the abdomen, a strengthening, breathing softly. And then we can release, rotate each leg back to center, bring the legs back to hip distance, connecting to the 3 points of the feet, and noticing what you feel. Beautiful. From here, let's step the legs wider again, and then we're going to explore moving our pelvis on the leg bones. And so what we want to find is just purely a side-to-side movement. So if the hip starts to go back or forward or something kind of like wonky is happening, make your movement smaller. Start small. Feel the movement. And then if it's available, then you can start to go bigger. Sometimes what happens is we compensate through our upper body. So instead of the hips actually moving, the upper body is moving. So we want to keep our nose, our breastbone, and our pubic bone in line. So if you have a broom handle or a dowel, I'm just using a spinal strip because that's what I have right here. You can line it up through the center of your body and then take your hips to the side. And now notice how the torso is just following along with the pelvis. It's following along with the hips. The upper body is no longer creating the movement. Now I'm going quite quickly. You can slow the movement down. And this movement, for me anyways, when I first started practicing, was really tricky. Every time I went to the side, my torso would like shift to the side, so then I would just come back, take a pause, take a breath, and then try it again. Okay, come back, reset, and then try it again. So I just keep going small until my body established that pattern. And then I could try the other side. So depending where you are, you can adapt the practice to suit you. So just be gentle with yourself. There's no right or wrong, good or bad. We're all in a different place on our own physical journeys. Okay. Now from here, we're going to add movement of our leg and the rotation like we did before. So we're going to start with the right leg, keeping the pelvis neutral. The right leg's going to rotate out and bring the foot down. I'm going to bring my legs just a little bit wider. Feeling into the 3 points of the feet, center of the heels, base of the big toes, base of the baby toes. I like to start with my hands on my hips because that's where we're going to initiate the movement from. So just like when we were moving side to side, the hips are now going to move the opposite direction of the leg that's rotated out. So if the right leg's rotated, the pelvis moves to the left. And same idea, neutral torso, the upper body is just following the hips. And then once you find an appropriate range, and you can keep a little micro bend in that front, in that right knee as well, just so it doesn't lock or hyperextend. We're going to take the hips to the left, and then we're going to pause there. Hold that. Bring the right hand onto the thigh, so just gently pressing your hand into your leg, and then perhaps taking the left arm out to the side, straight out from your shoulder. If there's a lot of pinching or tightness in your neck or shoulder, you can bring the arm down. So explore, find an appropriate height for your arm. Feel the connection between your feet and the ground. And we're just going to hold here and breathe. And we can release that left arm down. Bring the hips back to center and rotate the right leg back in. And then we're going to set up for the other side. Left leg rotates out. So if the hips go with, just come back and reset. Right? So if we notice a compensation, something that's not supposed to happen, we can just reset. That's the beauty of the practice. The foot comes down. Hips move to the right this time. Maybe a gentle bend in that left knee. So take as many tries as you need just so it feels good that you're moving purely side to side. The hips aren't going back. So if the torso starts to lean forward, that means you've gone too far, so just reset. And then when you're ready, left hand comes onto the thigh and the right arm comes out from the shoulder at a comfortable height. Feel the feet against the ground. Breath soft and gentle. Release the top arm down, bring the hips back to center, and rotate the left leg. Now we can step the feet back together, hip distance apart. Find the tripod in your feet, center of the heel, base of the big toe, base of the baby toe. And notice what you're experiencing now. Notice if the pressure has changed position in your feet. Maybe there's a greater awareness or greater sensation somewhere in your legs. Maybe your low back or your upper back feels different. Maybe the breath has changed. Maybe you don't notice any change, and that's perfectly okay too. We just want to scan through our body and notice what you're experiencing, notice what you're feeling. So the more we can notice, the more we can feel. We increase our level of awareness, and when we have more awareness, that can inform us of how we practice, what feels good and what doesn't feel good, what works for us and what doesn't work for us. Okay, from here, let's step the legs wide again. And I realize my arms come off the screen, but you get the point. So we're going to set up the same way. Right leg rotates out, pelvis stays neutral. This time, we're going to bend the right knee so the knee is directly over top of the ankle. If this feels like it's too wide, you can bring your legs closer together or wider apart. So it might take a little bit of practice, a couple times, just to find what feels good for you. So you shouldn't feel like you're straining through your low back, and your bum shouldn't be sticking back, your back shouldn't be arching. You want to keep that neutral upper body. Rotate the leg, bend the knee. And then we're going to pause here. Bring your right hand to the outside of your right thigh and press your leg into your hand. And notice what you feel now. As you continue to do this, sense into the center of the heels, the base of the big toes and the base of the baby toes. Breathing softly. Keep this feeling in the leg. Bring your arms up to shoulder height and maybe turn your head to look at your right middle finger. This is warrior two. We're working on strengthening the legs, which is great for pelvis stability. If you're a runner, really good practice. If you feel a lot of pinching and tightness in the shoulders, you can bring the arms down. Be where you feel comfortable and can breathe with ease. So our breath can be a barometer. If we're holding our breath, if our breath is straining or we feel like we have to force it, that can give us more information about what our body needs. And then you can stay here, or if you want to try a little bit of a side bend, we can let the backhand come down and just rest on the thigh. And then you're going to bend at the waist towards your back leg. And then if you want, you can bring the right arm up higher, turning the palm towards your left foot. So notice how my leg position didn't change. Right, I'm going to show you one more time. My legs stayed exactly the same. I'm just bending through the side of my waist and feeling now a nice stretch through the right side body. Be in a place where you can breathe with ease. So if your breath has stopped, or if you're really straining, come out, reset, and don't go quite as far. Be really, really gentle with yourself. When we're gentle with our body, it's interpreted, our brain interprets that as safety. And then we can start to let go of some of the tension and strain patterns that are present. Ease begets more ease. And then we can come back to the warrior two. Now release your hands down to your hips. Maybe bringing your right hand to the outside of the thigh and pressing the outside of your right leg into your hand again. Feel the leg kind of fire up. Now, with the hands on the outside of the hips, we're going to tilt the pelvis. So again, the legs aren't moving, but we're going to move the pelvis only as far as it will go without the legs moving towards that right knee. So just a tiny bit. Now we can bring the back of the right hand to the inside of the thigh as we prepare for extended side angle. Now the left arm can stay by your side. You can bring it out from the shoulder, or you can bring it all the way up. Breathe here. Feel the connection between your feet and the ground. And then we'll bring the top arm down. Hands come back onto the pelvis. So we're going to tilt the pelvis back upright. Straighten the right leg. Rotate the thigh back to center. And then let's step the feet back together. And just take a pause, take an inventory of your body. Notice how you feel now. Maybe comparing the right leg to the left. So now, of course, we have to balance that out. So let's step the legs wide again. Setting up on the left side. Left thigh rotates only as far as the hips don't follow. Take your time to set this up. Bend the left knee. Knee over ankle. Left hand comes to the side of the thigh, pressing the leg into the hand. Notice what sensations change. And then bring the arms up to extend it from the shoulders. Turning your head maybe to look at your left middle finger if it feels okay for your neck. And notice your breath. As you breathe, feel the connection between your feet and the ground. Legs supporting the upper body. Be easy with yourself. When you're ready, release the right hand onto the thigh and then gently bend to the right, letting the left arm come up into the air if that serves you. Be where you can breathe. Feel free to reset and try it again to find that appropriate distance for you that you side bend. Recognizing that your practice doesn't have to look like mine. It doesn't have to look like your friends. Everyone's body and life experiences are unique and that's expressed in different ways. So what I'm offering today are invitations, they're suggestions, they're guidelines. And ultimately we have to decide what works best for our bodies and what leaves us feeling really great and awesome at the end. And sometimes that's trial and error. So be kind to yourself. Take your time, go slow. Let's come back up to Warrior Two. Releasing the hands onto the hips. Now, pelvis is going to tilt towards the left, towards that left foot. Notice how the legs haven't changed, right? My knee hasn't dropped in, it hasn't gone out, it hasn't gone deeper. Like I haven't sunk my knee towards the floor, just the pelvis. It might feel like it's barely moving. If you're really tight through the hips, it might not go very far. Back of the left hand to the inside of the left thigh. And then the right arm out to the side or straight up into the air. Breathe. Be where you can breathe with ease. Feel the connection between your feet and the ground. If your muscles start to shake, don't worry. They're strengthening or releasing some old tension patterns. Let's bring the top arm down. Hands come back to the hips so we can feel the pelvis move back to neutral. Straighten the left leg. Rotate the thigh back to center. And then we can step the feet together. Standing tall in your mountain pose, feet hip distance apart. Sensing into the 3 points of the feet. Notice your experience now. Perhaps the legs feel more similar, more balanced. I certainly have a lot more awareness, sensation in through my hips and my glutes. Now from here, let's change up our movement a little bit. So we're still going to stay standing, and I'm just going to move a little bit forward on my mat so I have some room behind me. So starting in the mountain pose, feeling into the 3 points of the feet. Let's settle here. Notice your breath. Has the breath changed since the beginning of practice? Let's shift the weight now into the left leg, and the right leg's going to come straight back. So I'm just sliding my foot straight back. I'm keeping the heel lifted, so now I'm on the ball of my back foot, and my front knee is bent, ankles directly over top of the knees directly over top of the ankle. Now from here, you can keep the arms by your side, or you can maybe bring the arms up into cactus arms, which is really nice because it helps release some of the tension and congestion that can happen in through the front of the shoulders. So hold here and breathe. Maybe pressing that right heel back towards whatever is behind you. If it feels like your back is really arching, or you feel really unsteady, you can make your stance a little bit shorter so you don't have to take a big step back. So you can try a few different spots and see what feels most stable and most comfortable for you. We never want to be in a position where our body's straining or we get really rigid and braced in order for us to hold ourselves up. That's really counterproductive. So noticing your breath. If the arms get tired, you can bring them down. And we're going to add a twist. So keep the elbows in line with the shoulders. Keep the chin in line with your breastbone. We're going to rotate through the ribs and the sides of the waist towards the left leg, so towards your front leg. And if the arms start to initiate the movement, so if you're kind of doing this kind of movement, that means now we're not moving through the ribs. Or if that right hip starts to follow and your legs start to move, that means now you're moving through the lower body and we've lost the rotation. So in such case, come back to center and see if you can just go slowly and do a small movement. You shouldn't have to push through any resistance in your body. Just find that range where it can be really easy and really smooth. Sometimes bringing your hands right onto the rib cage and feeling it can be helpful. So try a couple times, and then when you feel confident that you can rotate without compensating, then we'll hold for a few breaths. Let's come back to center, bring the arms down, and then with control, I'm bringing the weight into my front leg to step forward, finding balanced mountain pose. When you're ready, shift the weight into your right leg and take the left leg straight back. We're on the ball of the foot, the back heel is lifted, the front knee gently bends so the knee stays over the ankle. So make any adjustments you need. So if that was too far back, so you can kind of see I'm just taking my leg back. I haven't leaned forward, my back's not arching. Right? Just be really gentle. If you feel unbalanced, taking the leg a little bit wider, widening the stance can be more supportive as well. So sometimes we have to try a few different things to find out what works best for our bodies. So with that front foot, feeling into the center of the heel, the base of the big toe, base of the baby toe. And then bring the arms up into cactus arms. Notice your breathing. Press the left heel back. Keeping the elbows in line with the shoulders, start to explore your rotation towards that front leg. It might take a few tries. Be really easy with yourself. And once you find it, hold and breathe. Come back to center. Let the arms come down and then step forward. Okay. From balanced, we're going to shift the weight again into the left leg And then step back again into your high lunge. Front knee's bent, back heel is lifted. If you find that it's been too much to keep your heel lifted, you can shorten your stance and bring the heel down. But for my practice, I'm going to keep the heel lifted, the front knee is bent. Now, bring your left hand to the outside of your left thigh, or whatever leg is forward. And just like we did it in Warrior 2, you're going to press the leg into your hand. So the knee is not dropping out, but it's the movement of the thigh into the hand. And try that a couple times and notice what you feel. Bring the opposite hand to the side of your head, and then the hand that's against your leg, let it hang by your side. And then we're going to explore a side bend. So we're going to start to bend the torso to the side. And so notice how there hasn't been any movement through my hips or my legs. You can keep pressing your hand into your thigh if that's helpful. If you have a tendency to move through your head, if the head kind of is initiating the movement, just come back and see how far you can go without the head initiating. Be where you can breathe with ease and hold. Come back up, release the arm down, step forward. Let's do the other side. Step back with the left leg. Front knee is bent, back heel is lifted. Bring your right hand to the outside of your thigh and press the leg into the hand. Opposite hand to the side of your head. And we're going to start to explore a side bend on this side. Breathing with ease. Back to center, and step forward. Coming back into our mountain pose, sensing into the middle of the heels, the base of the big toes and the base of the baby toes. Feel your legs. Notice how your experience of your legs has changed since the beginning of the practice. Has anything else changed? So I'd like to do one more movement with you. I'm going to turn sideways so you can see a little bit better. So we're starting in our mountain pose. And then the movement is like you're sitting back into a chair. So the hips are moving back, the knees are bending, and the ankles are bending. And what we want to do is find an even tempo between the hips, the knees, and the ankles. So that means we're bending from the hips and the knees at the same pace. So sometimes what happens is we move through the hips and then we bend the knees. I don't know if I can do it. Knees. So you can kind of see how my knees are going, and then I'm sticking my bum back. We don't want that. We want them to go together. So explore. Sometimes it can be useful doing this one in a mirror so you can see if they're going together. And then start to notice what's happening in the upper body. Right? We don't want the back to arch. Notice if you have a tendency to move through the head. Is the head dropping forward or dropping back? Can you keep a neutral neck, neutral spine, and just let the movement happen in your lower body. So sometimes what I do with students or clients is we take our broom handle or a dowel. I'm just going to use a spinal strip because that's what I have. We bring the broom handle right at our hip crease, like right where we bend, and then holding onto that, right? I'll turn this way for a moment. I'm folding over the broom handle. And that helps, I find that helps keep more of a neutral spine. So if you have a tendency to kind of just like drop your bum down and maybe the low back rounds, we're not getting the same type of hip flexion. We want to go back. So can you see the difference? There's a dropping versus a moving back, right? And your movement doesn't necessarily have to be as big as mine. It might be just kind of like this. And then you can start to notice, do the knees go out to the side? Do the knees drop in? Whatever direction your knees are pointing, so when I look down, my knees are lined up with my middle toes. And so as I bend my knees, they stay on that same trajectory. So if something wonky is happening at the level of the knees, just make your movement smaller, only go as far as they don't drop in or go out. Yeah? So there's a lot of different ways that our body can compensate when we don't have really easy hip flexion. And so if you're someone who has a lot of knee or ankle issues, this can be a really good practice. So just explore. So once you've found that even tempo, and you've quieted your compensations as much as you can, as much as you're aware of, then we can hold. Bring the palms together. So the palms are right at the front and middle of your chest. I'm just going to turn back this way. Yeah, hold here. And then if you'd like, we can explore a twist. And so it's key that the lower body stays as it is, just like we did in the high lunge. We don't want the knees and the legs to shift. And you can turn your chest, your rib cage to one side. So it might take a couple tries. So if something like this starts to happen, right, just come back and reset. Upper body only. Take a few breaths in your twist in one side. And come back to center. If you need to give yourself a break, come up. Come back into the chair. And then rotate to the other side. Make sure you're not holding your breath. Only go as far as you can breathe with ease. So just be curious and explore here. When you're tired, come up, take a rest. Maybe try it again. And then come up. Standing in your mountain pose. Feeling into the 3 points of your feet. Observing your breath. Feel sensation throughout your legs. Steady and strong. Thank you so much for joining me in this practice. Have fun exploring, and if you have any questions, let me know. Have a great day.